Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Huddle Hub podcast. My name is Metal Mike, and today we are going to talk about Week 7 of the UFL. We're going to recap the last game from Week 6, but we are also going to preview Week 7. We're also going to update the pick challenge between me and John with the UFL, and we're going to talk about some of the news coming out of the world of football. And plus, we're going to just talk a little bit about how things are looking when it comes to mini camps starting. Right, because NFL mini camps have opened up. The rookies have arrived last week. They went through their first week of practice. And obviously, you got to try and find stuff. As a podcaster, you got to try and find stuff on every team to talk about. It's not the easiest thing to do sometimes, because teams do put stuff out there for the public to see when it comes to their teams. But I guess the thing I should say is when you have a busy weekend and you're trying to put together a show for a Tuesday and you have a lot of stuff going on, you don't necessarily have the time to do it. I've had a pretty busy weekend. You guys know I was live on Sunday to do the Sunday show, right? And then after that was just a busy day for me. As you could tell, I'm in a different room now, right? From past shows. This is a different room. And by the way, my camera is based here, and I'm looking at my main screen right in front of me. I should probably flip them around while still using this camera. Okay? But the plan is to update this camera at some point. So that's the plan. Hopefully we can get this camera updated in the next couple days here, probably before Sunday. But if not, this is going to be the camera angle for a little bit. Okay, so before we get into everything, you guys are going to head over to the Huddle Hub podcast over on social media, on Instagram, X, TikTok, and on Epic Studios at the Huddle Hub Pod. You're going to hit that follow button. Over on the YouTube, you're going to hit the subscribe button. That's how you follow on YouTube. And here on the Twitch channel, that is how you're going to follow on the Twitch. All these social media links are in the bio of the Twitch channel. You're just going to go head down and check the one that you desire to go to, and help us build the Huddle Hub podcast through the rest of the 2026 NFL offseason and beyond. Okay? So we're going to flip this way a little bit. There we go. We're going to go that way a little bit. So, all right. So, again, a little bit of a different setup here for the day, but we got to do the show. We got to talk about the stuff that has been happening in the world of football. And the first thing we're going to do is recap Week 6 of the UFL, the final game, because we recapped the first 3 of the week. But the game that we did not get to recap yet was the Birmingham Stallions against the Orlando Storm. Okay, so the Orlando Storm going into this game suffering their first loss of the season. The Storm look like they have been having a pretty good, somewhat of a dominant season. I mean, the DC Defenders are up there too. Same record going into the week. And I said this last week that I'm super excited for the Orlando Storm and the DC Defenders to meet this season. But they're not meeting until Week 9 and Week 10. They are meeting 2 weeks in a row. And then just imagine if they meet. Just imagine if things just pan out to the point where they meet in the first round of the playoffs. I don't think it's ever been done in the sport of football where the same teams have met 3 weeks in a row. Now, we've had teams that have met 2 weeks in a row. Years ago, back in I think it was at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, the Saints and the Rams in the playoffs met like a week before in Week 17 of the regular season. We've seen teams in the NFL play each other 2 weeks back-to-back, Week 17 and Wild Card Round weekend. We've seen that. But we've never seen teams play each other 3 weeks in a row, because the NFL would never set up to where teams play each other 2 weeks in a row. That just doesn't happen. And when I seen that the Orlando Storm and the DC Defenders play each other Week 9, Week 10, I'm like, man, just imagine for the first time ever in the world of football, in the sport of football, if these two teams end up facing in the playoffs as well in round one. would be crazy. But the Orlando Storm, they suffered their first loss last week, and they have fallen yet again. The Orlando Storm end up getting beat 20-17 by the Birmingham Stallions. Some of the team leaders for this game, Jack Plummer for the Orlando Storm, 324 yards for 2 touchdowns. Jashawn Corbin, the running back, had 13 carries for 53 yards, and wide receiver KJ Hamler. If you don't know who KJ Hamler is, go look him up. I mean, former wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, 8 catches, 113 yards. The Birmingham Stallions, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 271 yards for a touchdown. Snoop Connor, the running back, 16 carries, 61 yards, and a touchdown. And Justin Ross, wide receiver, 7 catches, 135 yards, and a touchdown for Justin Ross. Okay. Now, the updated standings are in. As far as the UFL, the DC Defenders are 5-1. They're in first place. The St. Louis Battlehawks in second at 4-2. The Orlando Storm 4-2, moving down to third place after suffering their second straight loss. And the Dallas Renegades suffer their third loss in a row, moving to fourth place 3-3. The top 4 teams would be your playoff teams if the playoffs were to start today. And then everybody else is 2-4, tied for fifth place at 2-4. The Aviators, the Kings, the Houston Gamblers, and the Birmingham Stallions. Okay. Let's look ahead to week 7. Week 7 of the UFL coming up this week. And the first game is happening on Thursday or Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as the Columbus Aviators head out to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks. This game takes place on Fox. On Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Louisville Kings head out to D.C. to take on the Defenders. That game taking place on Fox. Then later on that night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Dallas Renegades looking to snap that 3-game skid against the Birmingham Stallions, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday night on ESPN. I mean, Dallas, it's just so crazy how Dallas kind of fell off. They started this season so hot, and they just fell off. Surprising. I mean, starting this season, they were 3-0. Sitting here thinking, man, Dallas might be the team this year. And they just skid 3 games. And if they drop this game to the Birmingham Stallions, just think of this. If they drop this game to the Birmingham Stallions, right, and everybody else that's, I mean, you look at it, Birmingham is in 5th place. They beat Dallas, they bump up to 4 because of the head-to-head matchup and the tying records. They would bump up to 4. Time records and head-to-head. So Dallas is in a big position right now, possibly getting bumped from the playoffs at the moment, going into week 8. But then just imagine if the Kings win, the Aviators, the Gamblers. Now, Dallas, you got to think they started the season off beating the Gamblers. And then the following week, they end up beating the Battlehawks. Sorry about that. But then they end up beating the Aviators. So 3 games in a row, they win. Summer. So they win those 3 games in a row. And then they drop the Aviators, the Kings, and the Defenders. So they can end up possibly falling to 6 or 7, pending on how things fall this weekend in week 7, pending on who wins and who loses. And Dallas going into this season, crazy crazy to think that they had a hot hand to start this season off. So we'll have to see what happens this weekend. And we will recap all the games that happen Friday and Saturday on the Sunday show. And then we will recap the Sunday game next Tuesday here on the Huddle Hub Podcast. We'll be live on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah. Update on the UFL Pick Challenge real quick. I am 12-12. I am at 500. John is 15-9. In week 6, John went 2-2. I went 3-1. So I picked up a game. So I'm 3 games back with 4 weeks left. Week 7, 8, 9, and 10. So if I could pick up a game each week going into the playoffs, I would be ahead. And it would be the second pick challenge in a row. I mean, college football, he had me beat. And the college football pick challenge was way over before the NFL one was done. So it'd be the second pick challenge in a row where I'm going into the playoffs ahead, possibly. Which would be crazy. It would be crazy. So. But we'll have to see what happens. We're going to get into the news of everything. Before we do, we're going to take about a 30 to 45 second break here on the Huddle Hub Podcast. We'll be right back after this. You know, I said it on the Sunday show that this song was a jam. You know, the program that I used to go live on has this background music put in. And this one's called Night Drive. And it is such a jam. I love using this background music. Love using it. I used to use the one called Daydreaming, but then I found Night Drive and I was like, oh man. This is awesome. Definitely awesome. We're going to have this one playing in the background why I bring us back into the show here. Make sure you guys are heading over to the Huddle Hub Podcast after the show over on TikTok, Instagram, X, and on Epic Studios at the Huddle Hub Pod. You're going to hit that follow button over on the YouTube. You're going to hit that subscribe button. That's how you follow on the YouTube. You don't have to pay any money. You hear subscription and you're thinking, oh man, I got to pay money. No, you don't have to pay anything. It is free to follow us over on YouTube. And, of course, hit that follow button on the Twitch channel. All of our social media links are in the Twitch channel's bio. So you just click on the one you desire to go to, and you can help us build the Huddle Hub Podcast going through the rest of the 2026 NFL offseason and beyond. We're jamming the Night Drive. It's such a good tune. You get so used to it. And then when I do my player for Madden, if you go over to the YouTube channel, you can check out my player videos. I use a different one. I forget which one I use. I think I use like feeding. There's one called Feeding the Ducks. And I think I use that one, I believe, or Dance Pop. There's different names to it. It's weird, but they're good jams. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, guys, not a lot of news coming out this past couple days. It's, things kind of seem like they've toned down a little bit as far as the news. The Sunday show, we didn't have a lot of news to talk about. And we really don't have a lot to talk about today. Now, I will say this. I keep my top 5 free agents of each position list. And last week, one player came off my new board, my updated board, and that was Calais Campbell signing to the Baltimore Ravens for a year. And now another one is coming off my board. Another one, it is being reported that could be possibly coming off my board. And it's a quarterback, which is kind of cool. So to start things off with the news, quarterback Skylar Thompson is being reported that he is expected to sign with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, when you look at the Baltimore Ravens quarterback room, you got Lamar Jackson. Diego Pavia signs a week ago. You can have Skylar Thompson there now. And I know I'm missing a quarterback. I know there's a quarterback that's in that room that I'm missing. So let's look at the Ravens QB depth chart for a second here. Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley. That's who I'm forgetting. So you got Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley, Diego Pavia, and now Skylar Thompson. And I'm saying this right now. I think Diego Pavia could have an opportunity to start in this league. Could it be for the Ravens? Maybe. I said this when Diego signed with them, that I think they need to put a microscope over Lamar Jackson. This team is built to be a top 5 defense. Top 5 defense. And the offense looks phenomenal. So there's no excuses now for Baltimore. You should at best have a 14-3 season. And you should be expected to go at least as far as the conference championship. And if I was management in Baltimore, I would be sitting there saying to Lamar, look, if you do not get us to the conference title game at least, then we are going to start thinking about possibly moving on. I would. Now, there's about 99% of the people that I talk to about this disagree with me. But there's one thing that people can't disagree with me on, and that is the fact that this is a win-now league, and teams want to win now. So, with that being said, Baltimore has not won anything but an AFC North championship the past few years. They've won a couple. They made it to the conference title game one time with Lamar Jackson under center. And I know you could probably say the same about Buffalo and a couple other teams. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. But at least Joe Burrow went to a Super Bowl and only lost by 3 points. It's not like he got shut out. They had an opportunity to beat the Rams in that Super Bowl too. So you can't put Joe Burrow in that position, because look at what that defense has come to since losing that Super Bowl. It's been rough there in Cincinnati. You could probably fairly say that it's been a little rough on the offensive side of the ball too. Yeah, they got Jamar Chase. I get that. And they got a decent receiving core, but it's still been a little rough on that offensive line. I'd be putting a microscope over Lamar Jackson this year and telling him, look, you need to get us to the conference title game, 14-3 conference title game, win the AFC North. And if you don't, we're going to start thinking about possibly moving on from you. Yeah, it's cool you're winning league MVPs. Yeah, it's cool you're winning us the division championship. But you can win a division championship every year. And what does it get you? A guaranteed home playoff game. unless you have home field advantage, a guaranteed one home playoff game. Now, if you're the second seed, you're almost guaranteed a second home playoff game because you are the second highest seed remaining. And you could possibly, as a second seed, take over home field advantage. We just recently seen that as of a year ago when the Eagles were the second seed and the Lions were the first seed. Lions lose to the Commanders, and the Eagles in the 2 seed take over as the home field advantage team. So you're at best, you want to get that home field advantage, that 1 seed, but at least get the 2 seed if you can't get the 1. Because that home field advantage can fall into your lap. It's very rare for home field advantage to fall into your lap as a 3 or 4 seed. You would need everything to go your way as a 3 or 4 seed to get home field advantage. So I would say, hey, at worst, second seed, at best, first seed. Home field advantage. So we'll have to see what happens, but that quarterback room has become slightly packed now in Baltimore, and especially with the possibilities of a Skylar Thompson coming in. The Green Bay Packers went out and signed quarterback Tyrod Taylor and released quarterback Desmond Ridder. So they made a little bit of a change up with their quarterback room, letting go of Desmond Ridder, but bringing in Tyrod Taylor. Okay. Now, I don't think this is much of a big deal. We know that Jordan Love is the starting quarterback in Green Bay. And unless something catastrophic happens, that nothing's changing there. Green Bay, you look at Green Bay, you look at their receiving corps, it's in a little bit of a transition period. Dontavian Wicks heading out to Philadelphia. So a little bit of a transition period for the Green Bay Packers in that wide receiver room. But they're still at the same time trying to take care of the guys that are there. I believe it was reported that they extended one of their wide receivers. So I believe it was either Jaden Reed or Christian Watson that they extended. And you're probably thinking, like, Mike, what are you talking about a transition in that wide receiver room? They have Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Matthew Golden. Yeah, Matthew Golden is a second-year rookie. The guy is still kind of, in a sense, finding his way into this league. Had a great rookie year. Had a really good rookie year. But they're still having that transition period of him coming in and being the WR1. And then the other guys who are now going to start picking things up as well. So the Green Bay Packers, I would say, are still in that little bit of the transition period with their wide receiver room, even with the losing of Dontavian Wicks. But Jordan Love is going nowhere. So this is just that depth move that doesn't mean too much. Again, unless something catastrophic happens to Jordan Love, you may not even see Tyrod Taylor touch the field. Or if Green Bay is blowing out a team to the point where they could say, hey, Jordan, you're done for the day. Let's put Tyrod in and let you start resting for the week to get you ready for next week. Depth move. That's it. Dante Fowler Jr., edge rusher, free agent edge rusher, has been signed. Oh, my gosh. Let me start that one over. Dante Fowler Jr., edge rusher, has signed with, oh, my gosh. When you think about wanting to clip things. All right. Edge rusher Dante Fowler Jr. has signed with the Seahawks a 1-year worth $5 million deal. Now, I don't know how big of a role Dante Fowler is going to play in the Seattle Seahawks defense. I mean, Dante Fowler Jr. is a very good football player, very good edge rusher. The question is how big of a role is he going to play in Seattle on that defense? Is this going to be just a depth move? Is this going to be something where he is a starter trying to help some of the younger defensive players, pretty much, work their way up? Who knows? When you look at the edge rushing room in Seattle right now, it's DeMarcus Lawrence, Mike Morris, Riley Mills, and now Dante Fowler Jr. So to have DeMarcus Lawrence on one side and maybe Dante Fowler Jr. on the other side could be good for them. You got Byron Murphy in the middle, Brandon Pill in the middle. So Seattle's defensive line not looking too bad. Not looking too bad, and Byron Murphy's still pretty young. I believe that they had to decide on his fifth-year option either this year or next year. So that Seattle defense looking pretty good, and adding Dante Fowler Jr. may be a little bit of a help. I said it that I don't think Seattle's going to have the same year that they had last year. Yes, they had a great year, went on, won the Super Bowl, raised the Lombardi Trophy, all that stuff, but they let go of a lot of their core guys. And when I did my predictions last week on Sunday, I said 10-7 at best, 7 seed, maybe lucky 6 seed in the playoffs. They'd have to be on the road the whole time. I don't see Seattle repeating. I don't. Yes, they have Sam Darnold at quarterback. And Sam Darnold done some phenomenal things the past couple years. Not only here in Seattle, but in Minnesota as well. I mean, hell, he took Seattle to a 14-3 record, and if he would have beat Detroit, would have had home field advantage. Maybe would have even won a playoff game in Minnesota. But instead, no. I do not see this Seahawks team being the same Seahawks team we've seen in 2025, and we all know how weird 2025 was to begin with. Just like the Patriots, I think both are going to be 10-7 at best, sneaking into the playoffs. They might get by in the first round, depending on who they're playing, but they will be bounced by the divisional round. We will not see a rematch between the Seahawks and Patriots. Neither one of them are going to be returning to the Super Bowl. So, and I know people are going to argue with me, say that, like, hold on, Mike. The Patriots are about to get A.J. Brown in June. What do you mean? A.J. Brown is one man. Yes. I'm not taking anything away from A.J. Brown. He did great in Philadelphia. Did great things in Philadelphia. Helped us raise a Lombardi Trophy a year ago. But he's only one man. He is not going to change the trajectory of the offense in just a split. No, because defenses are going to pick up. Teams are going to pick up and know to have to double team him by week 5. And then what? You're right back down to square one. You ask people, do you believe Kayvon Boutte can carry this team as a WR1, WR2? Maybe. No, but maybe. And he's part of the future of the Patriots organization. So, not saying he's a bad player, but I don't think he could carry that team right now. No. But the Seahawks and Patriots, I see them both 10-7 at best. Playoff teams, 5, 6, 7 seed, 6 or 7 seed. And lucky to get by the first round, second round elimination, divisional round. Now, again, we have 2 more predictions to do, 2 more versions of it to do, one before preseason kicks off and one before the regular season kicks off, a week before regular season. But part of me feels like my predictions for both the Seahawks and the Patriots will be 10-7. I don't think those will change. I think they will be sticking as a 10-7, both 10-7 teams in my next round of predictions for the 2026 season. L'Jarius Sneed, defensive back L'Jarius Sneed, it has been reported that all criminal charges have been dropped from his aggravated assault charge that was put against him. So L'Jarius Sneed is cleared from all his criminal charges for the incident, and now maybe he goes back to playing football. He is on the free agent market right now, so teams can sign him. He's available, and he's actually on my top 5 list for free agents by position. So I could see L'Jarius Sneed being signed as quick as next week because he is one hell of a defensive back. He is. And now that all this stuff is off his plate, I could see him getting scooped up pretty quick. He's a 29-year-old defensive back who still has a couple years ahead of him to play. And I could see him being picked up as possibly as soon as next week. That could happen. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if a team comes around and picks him up and wants to add them to his roster. There are a couple teams out there that need a cornerback, a guy that can transition into this free safety or safety position if possible. Because when you look at his availability as far as position, he's a cornerback, but it looks like he has, bounced into the safety position at times. He's played 69 games in his career, 10 interceptions for 105 yards returning, doesn't have a touchdown. Which, who cares? He's a defensive back. They're not, prone to, or trained to score touchdowns. It just happens sometimes. But you look at his tackle count, 352 tackles in the past 6 years, 260 solo, 260 of 352. That's more than half of his tackles by himself. Why would you not want that on your team? So I could see L'Jarius Sneed being signed by as soon as next week with everything being dropped. With everything being dropped, I could see him being off the free agent market by next week. So we'll definitely have to see if that happens or not. See if it happens this week. It's only Tuesday, right? It's only Tuesday. Anything could happen in the next couple days. So we'll have to keep an eye out and see if L'Jarius Sneed ends up off the free agent market and ends up signing with somebody. I'm writing down Skylar Thompson on my free agent signed list because I don't want to forget to take him off the list. Last bit of news to talk about before we get out of here. Anthony Richardson. Dang it. I always start off, when I talk about Anthony Richardson, start off the wrong way. So we're going to start off with the right way. Quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson. He has showed up to the mini camps this week. Voluntary workouts. Yeah, we're going to start that one over again. Okay. Last time, then we're going to move on. Quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson, has showed up to the voluntary mini camps. Now, there was a lot of talk about him being on his way out of Indianapolis. He did request to be traded. But since then, as far as reports are saying, nobody has called in interest. Nobody has mentioned anything about wanting to take him off Indianapolis's hands. So as of right now, he is still on the Colts depth chart. But as a backup quarterback. Why? Because they have a starting quarterback in Daniel Jones. Now, as we know, Daniel Jones came in, had a 7-1 start, 8-1 start, and then went down with an injury. But they didn't turn to Anthony Richardson to take over the team. They went out and picked up Phillip Rivers to come in and lead the Colts the rest of the way. So a franchise that went out and drafted you, and after a year and a half, said, you know what? Our starting quarterback that we bring in goes down. And instead of turning to you, we're going to go out and bring in a guy who hasn't played an NFL snap since 2020. A guy that has not taken an NFL snap in 6 years to come in and try and take this team to the playoffs. They completely gave up on Anthony Richardson. The way it looks at the end of year one. You go out and get Daniel Jones, bring him in. He takes you to a 7-8-1 record, and then he goes down. And nope, we're going to go out and pick up Phillip Rivers because we can't put Anthony Richardson in. No, can't do it. So I don't blame Anthony Richardson for wanting to be traded. The question is who's going to pick him up? Because think of it this way: if he rides his rookie contract out in the next 2 years, he's going to hit the free agent market. And by then, three draft classes are going to pass by? And there's going to be more quarterbacks that teams are going to be interested in other than him. And now, I've been saying it ever since this came out about him being traded. I think he ends up in Minnesota. Why? Because of the whole thing of Kevin O'Connell believing in him and thinking he still has an opportunity to be something in this league. Well, then Minnesota, clean up your cap room and go trade for him. Bring him into Minnesota. Now, we know that Minnesota's cap space ain't the best, but I don't think it would cost Minnesota that much to bring Anthony Richardson in. Because I don't think his cap hit was that big. Let's look at the Minnesota Vikings cap space right now. Let's look at the cap space right now. Because last I knew, back at the draft, they talked about their cap space. And it wasn't looking too good. And that's why they couldn't keep Jonathan Grenard. They traded him to Philadelphia, and then he signs a 4-year, $100 million deal with the Eagles. So with the new cap space kicking over in 2026, they got $42 million in dead cap space. It looks like about 16 mil, so that's why they couldn't re-sign Jonathan Grenard. So they'd still be able to trade. Oh, no, they're in the negative by 10 mil. Yeah, they're negative 10 million. So they would have to clean up that roster, try and find guys to clear out. They would have a lot to clean up. Wow. That's not good. I didn't think their cap space was that bad, but hey, well, I still say they try and figure out a way to get Anthony Richardson in their building, because if Kevin O'Connell believes that much of Anthony Richardson, then why not try and bring him in? Why not try and get him in Minnesota into a Vikings uniform? Why not? Part of me feels like this might be the last year they rely on the fact of J.J. McCarthy. If J.J. goes down again this year, I don't think Minnesota moves forward with him. I didn't think that Minnesota was going to move forward with J.J. this year. And now that they brought in, I always forget whether they brought in Tua or if they brought in Kyler Murray. I think Tua went to Atlanta and Kyler Murray went to the Vikings. And I want to say I'm right on that. Yes, he went to so Kyler went to the Minnesota Vikings. I got to keep remembering that. I get them mixed up for some reason. So you got Kyler Murray. So I don't see J.J. McCarthy starting this year. I don't. And if you believe that Anthony Richardson could be a starter in this league, okay, you have Kyler Murray for a year contract. And if Kyler Murray doesn't do what you expect him to do, and your belief in J.J. McCarthy is starting to kind of suffer, then why would you not go out and try and get the guy that you believe could still be something in this league? Because you're the only team that has the belief. You're the only head coach that has the belief. So you give Kyler the year to try and do something. If he doesn't do anything, it might be obvious that you move on from J.J. McCarthy. You bring in, I mean, the writing is kind of on the wall for that move to be made. I could still see Anthony Richardson ending up in Minnesota at some point in 2026, whether it's before the season kicks off or by the trade deadline in week 9. Because you got to think the cap space stuff opened up. Everybody's dead cap is away. We're at 10 million. Trades are going to happen. And Minnesota, if Minnesota, let's say by week 9, Minnesota is 2-6, their playoff hopes are gone. You lose one more game, you got to win the rest of the way out just to make a playoff. Be lucky enough to make a playoff. And hope that the teams you lost to have a worse record than you, or if they have the same record, lose to teams you beat because of head-to-head matchups. So if you're 2-6 and you still have that belief in Anthony Richardson, go get him. Go get him. Clean up your cap space and go get him. Let's look at the Vikings 2027 draft. Okay. I don't know why that didn't work. All right. So the Vikings 2027 draft picks. Let's look and see what they got in the draft. In 2026, they got a round 1. They got 2 round 2s. They got 3 round 3s, a round 4, 3 round 5s, a round 6, and 2 round 7s. That was 2026. Sorry. 2027. They have a round 1, a round 2, a round 3, a round 4, 2 5s, 2 6s, and 2 7s. That's what they got. And that could change. So go earn some draft picks while trading away and opening up your cap space. Try and salvage your 2026 season. Put yourself in a pretty decent position for drafting. Or just tank. Just tank. And build a team around Richardson. I don't know. I don't know why I'm so hung up on this Richardson to Minnesota thing. I just think it's going to happen. And again, with Kevin O'Connell, it seems like he's the only head coach that believes that he still can do something in this league. Then make it happen. And let's see if you're right. So, but guys, we're going to get out of here. That's 45 minutes. That's all we have today here on the show. So we're going to get out of here. Please make sure after the show, we would get off air here to go over to the Huddle Podcast on social media, over on TikTok, X, Instagram, and Epic Studios at the Huddle Pod. You're going to hit the follow button. Over on YouTube, you're going to hit the subscribe button. And over on the Twitch channel at the Huddle Podcast, you're going to hit the follow button. All of our social media links are in the Twitch bio. Just click on the one that you desire to go to, because I know not everybody uses every social media. A lot of people say, oh, I don't use TikTok. I don't use Instagram anymore. I don't use YouTube, whatever. But go to one you desire to go to, and please help us build the Huddle Podcast through the rest of the 2026 NFL offseason and beyond. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok at MetalBike714. That's where you can find me. Okay. With that being said, I will be back on Sunday for the Sunday edition of the Huddle Podcast, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm hoping to have my new camera by then and a better angle than this. If not, I might just switch my main screen. My main screen from this one to this one, so I'm not looking at you guys like this. And you see this side of my face. I'm going to try and make this look a little better. You know, I just moved into this room like 2 days ago. Okay. So still kind of trying to get things together. But with that being said, be good to each other, be kind to each other, take care of each other, be patient with each other. Remember, the world is not moving as fast as you think. Until Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Huddle Podcast. We'll see you guys then. Have a great rest of your week. Deuces.